you have some tea? Will you have some tea?
I'm going to turn myself off, actually. Just look at you,
At the
Ceri.
theater with me.
It's kind of weird having a conversation with yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're finding this, but even though I'm Zooming every day, I still get a bit of Zoom anxiety when I click on the link, and you get this sort of moment of, waiting for the host to give you access. My heart rate seems to increase. Do you get that?
Yeah, all the time, whatever. Actually, makes a real difference not doing a Zoom call, and it's not a quiz.
Never done a Zoom quiz.
Have you not?
No.
Oh.
But Ceri, I've got a 2-year-old, don't forget.
Yeah.
So by 8 o'clock in the evening, and by that point he's almost asleep, and there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And then he gets to sleep, it's 8:15, and I have a beer and sit down and fall asleep on the sofa. And then drag myself to proper bed by kind of 9:30.
I remember those days. They're great.
Well, it's so peculiar because we're in this lockdown as well, so which is odd for everyone. But I just feel as though I'm stuck in this. I'm in this bizarre loop where I go sort of Friday to Monday, and then suddenly I'm back to Friday. I don't know where the week just sort of disappears into this vortex. I think it must be the routine with a small child.
Yeah. This is the first day actually I've been on my own because Alice has gone back to school for the first time today.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I was feeling actually quite lost.
Oh.
Not having somebody else around the house, and I am so used to working. As I'm sure you are working at home on your own, designing, and that world has seemed to have is all meshed into one thing now. We've got family, and you've got designing, and you've got or no designing, or thinking about how you are going to get work in the future and things like that.
Will I ever design again?
Will I ever design again? So it's all it's meshed into one. Timelines have meshed into one, and Zoom meetings. So we're all having Zoom meetings about various stuff that's going on, but there's no separation of any of it really. It's all a big mashup, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. No, you're right, and certainly, the working alone and working at home, no different for us, apart from when we go into production, but coupled with full-time full-time childcare, but having a little one that basically means we haven't been to the pub for 2 years anyway. Kind of means it hasn't been hugely different, apart from a slightly heightened anxiety. And when this whole thing started, people were sort of saying, you could learn a language or catch up with yoga or reconnect with old friends, and haven't done any of it.
No. There was an interesting article in the New York Times about how people are feeling tense and stressful because of all the things that are being thrown at them. About learning, self-improvement, getting fit, stopping working, and the best survival tactic is just to ignore it all. And just if you want to veg out, you veg out, and don't think about improving yourself. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can believe it. And the anxiety of kind of will I get all these things done before lockdown ends?
It's not going to be long enough, is it?
Well, it might be at this rate in Wales.
Yeah.
And I think it's I personally, I really stuck my head in the sand a little bit and felt as though I'm not going to sort of. It was pretty devastating. Suddenly everything you've ever known has to stop, and there's no sort of sign of when it will when it will come back. But I was also aware that we were pretty well protected. None of my family members are frontline workers, key workers. And, theatre is, ultimately, we despite feeling as though it's the only thing in the world of any importance, when you're in production, it was a bit of a wake up, kind of, the rug can be pulled out very quickly.
It is, isn't it? It's interesting to see where we fit within the world, really. And it is. My wife's a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner, and so I've always been I've been aware of the pressures of her work and compare them a lot to mine. And I think, well, it doesn't really compare. I've spent 4 weeks lighting a show where people are pretending to sing and dance and care for people and stuff, and actually, you sometimes check yourself and think, actually, this isn't real. But she said, no, the message is really important, and what we go through is being shown on stage, and those stories are being told. And I think when this is over, I suppose that's the important things. We all need to tell those stories again and to help people get through it, I suppose. So we do serve an important part, albeit not sort of front line, I suppose. But
I guess you're right. Recovery and rehabilitation. All art forms are so important, aren't they? But I suppose theatre is such an old art form and been key to storytelling or politics or getting messages across. Or
it's for me anyway, and it's why I do theatre. Is the live quality, and is that connection, and being able to. Well, this is something. Well, it's going on to more designery sort of things. That is why I'm a lighting designer. Is because I can contribute. I can tell that story within the craft that I've got. There's times where I thought actual perfect lighting moments, in my humble opinion, or where it's not just the lighting. It's when absolutely everything is clicked, and my bit has clicked as well at the same time. And those moments for me are literally sort of hair on the back of your neck kind of moments. And you go, and I've had it watching other people's work as well, actually. So it's like you sit there and you go, wow, that is a whole collection of lighting, sound, performance, audience relationship to what's going on. And it's gone, wow. And probably between 5 and 10 times, I think that I've really experienced that. So
absolutely. I totally
those are the moments you're always striving for, aren't they? And those long days of tech, and you want to do things again and again and again, and those are the moments you just know you're after. It's like a drug, isn't it? It's if you get the mix right, it's like a perfect high.
Absolutely. But it's that feeling of hair standing up, or it's created by an energy that you don't really get in a cinema even, or certainly not watching a film on TV or watching theatre on TV. And it is completely, I completely agree. When the whole collaboration comes together, that's when you have that moment or that experience. That hasn't happened that often for me either, Ceri. Actually, the one time I remember sitting in a dress rehearsal and starting to cry. I mean, that's quite special because there was that much energy in the room, and you could tell the audience were fully connected. And it had been one of those collaborations, like you just mentioned, where the composition and the direction and the actors and it did all come together so well. But I'm wondering whether those moments come at the end of a positive experience anyway, because there are also moments where I've created something that I'm kind of proud of, but it's been a very difficult, anxious process. So the feeling at the end of it, although we have quite a short memory, don't we, in this industry, where usually we can get to the end of it and go, well, actually, that was
you're my best friend.
because it turns out all right.
And then you don't remember their name six months later. So,
Yeah. Well, they certainly don't contact you ever again.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I think I'm just trying to think of that point you made, whether it's just when it's a really good process, and that's when you get the perfect moments, or I'm trying to think of an example of something that was really shit difficult, but we got the perfect moment, and I think occasionally that happens, and I think that's maybe that happens sometimes when you've got a real genius of a director, sometimes, and they I don't know how you deal with that, but somebody who directs everything, including you and your work, and you're just a conduit to their ideas. And I've had one or two experiences where actually I thought, oh, that's brilliant. Actually, I'm glad I was able to make that happen for you. The all sort of empowered director who tries to do that and it doesn't work, and you think, my God, and then you go through the process. I don't know if you do it, but of interpreting their idea, showing them the idea, making it work, and then adapting it throughout the process, so it then becomes something that works for you. And then that's also quite satisfying. But and then I really do like some of the directors who just let you go and you're just riffing yourself. So I don't know how often that works, and what proportion of directors and because you work a lot of dance as well, how much control you've ended up with.
Yeah. Have you noticed there's certainly been a big shift in sort of a generational shift almost in directors over the last 10 years and the way they work? This is something I've discovered anyway. It seems to have gone I think lighting design is perhaps central to this, because it's gone from a period of time where it's possibly the youngest art form, isn't it, out of a collaborative team. So it's gone from a situation where it was a chief electrician, basically, what's the word?
Interpreting?
Yeah, that's the word, Ceri. So it's kind of gone from a chief electrician interpreting the director's vision to sort of a hybrid of a chief LX, possibly a resident chief electrician that designs, but still very much kind of led by the director, even set designer or designer, to a time now where it's very much kind of, a creative team is very much a collaborative experience with a lot of younger directors. Anyway, this is what I'm finding, and that crosses over into dance, because I think dance is actually a little bit ahead in that sense. That's been the case for many years. A choreographer really will build a good relationship with somebody to build that trust initially. I'm not saying that they would immediately hand everything over, but it's very much a collaboration and a sense that the lighting designer is as important to a choreographer as a set designer would ever be, because often there may be minimal set anyway. So that's what I'm finding. But I mean, having said that, you're going back to what you were saying about an experience where you're with a director that really does understand all elements and does drive it, and kind of, really push you to, as long as your ideas don't clash too much, that can push the production to somewhere that and open up ideas in your own mind.
Yeah, I think you have to be quite comfortable with the relationship and trusting in them, and them also then trusting in you that you will deliver their ideas and sort out and there's often a lot of technicality involved in that process anyway, where you're making it function as lighting as well as artistic vision, or that you know that artistically it works, but practically it isn't going to work.
Yes.
Whether and we'll may cover that later in the conversation of the touring aspect of it, but
Yes.
It's about the often the directors have the vision and they know it, but they don't know that something won't work actually when they get into dress rehearsals, and you've got to sort of see that coming their way and design it as well. Actually, we need that. You need more face light because you're going to be asking for it and we can't see it. There aren't many.
That's a really good point, actually. I mean, a lot of new relationships or new collaborations I've been involved with recently have seen a dance work that I've done and really wanted to create that kind of atmosphere, but in a theatrical environment. So, exactly as you just said, Ceri, you kind of know that we are going to get to a point where there's a very different nuts and bolts reason for not lighting it like dance. And it's still a very different kind of craft.
And
a lot of the more experienced directors certainly get that, but getting that message across, and I'd love to light a piece of theatre like I'd light a piece of dance, but we both know that's practically that's never going to happen. I say never going to happen. That's a complete generalisation. It can happen. So.
I quite like jumping off the lighting desk and going onto stage because you know if you stay behind it all the time, you're just not connected to them, and having little chats about if you just do that's like body movement. You don't have to, but that really works for lighting for X, Y, and Z reasons, and they will often go be grateful of that note and stuff. So
just made me think of an occasion where I didn't do that at all. I just hid behind the desk the entire process because it was such a hideous experience and a tricky director. So certainly no place for coming out from behind your little defence there of the production desk. And so much so, it was quite a long production process actually. Press night, I went to speak, I went to congratulate one of the actors, and they looked at me and went, "Sorry, who are you?" I had to introduce myself.
That's Well, it can happen.
The sign of a difficult process.
Sometimes it is nice to be surrounded by your team and your desks and the notes and especially if it's a car crash of a production. So
yeah, for sure. Not that there are many of those.
No, I can't think of any. You just design set and lighting, and that's it now. You don't do any production work if you can avoid it, I presume.
I do, yeah, in theatre anyway. I've managed to, in the last probably only 3 years though. Yeah. So where am I now? Over 20 years of doing this, and finally got to the point where I can consider myself a full-time designer, with some bits of teaching and things as well, which I really enjoy. So it's not a hardship.
That's a great achievement in Wales because it is really hard. It is really hard, and I've been doing it a bit longer than you, and it's
just a couple of years.
Just a couple of years, yeah. And it is hard to make a career and buy a house and support your family and stay in Wales. And I made when I went to college first, I thought I'm going to go to London because I lived in London for a bit before I went to college because I had family up there and lived in Acton and loved the life up there and thought, oh, great. I just never got around to doing it, and then got involved in lots of festival work in Cardiff. Actually, was my first thing. And so never made that leap and thought, well, I'll do it. And then got quite a lot of work in Cardiff in the Sherman, and did about 10 years there, which is great,
As a designer though, at the Sherman.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was in Phil Clark's days, and bless him, he was great about. He was quite a loyal guy, so it's one of those relationships where you establish a good working relationship, and he'd use me. So, which may have been sort of too loyal, and might have ended up doing too many shows there. But which part of the reason I may have not gone to London, I don't know. But it was a great place to learn your craft because it's a fantastic space. He was one of those directors who really liked lighting, like playing with it, and like creating pictures. He's a painter, so would push me into using colour a lot. And that was a good 10 years of, but still having to do production work around that because the Sheridan was producing a fair bit, but not enough to buy a house with.
Well, and also our rates are, you need to be doing a heck of a lot, don't you, to get to the end of the year and go, okay, well, I've earned the equivalent of, not a good salary, but an okay salary that means you can survive.
Yeah,
yeah. And I'm interested to know, Ceri, how about because I suspect this goes through most lighting designers' minds. That it's not something you decide to do usually straight out of college, or certainly not as young as A levels and school. It might be different now. Actually, I'm seeing a lot of students coming out and going straight to London and doing really well actually. But I think perhaps back in our day, I was going to say.
Thanks for including me in your day.
Well, it's quite a shit. When you asked me to do this, actually, I was really happy to be involved because I don't think I've actually spent any time just sitting and thinking and recalling all those memories. I started in 1998, so it's not that long ago. But when you think about where the industry's gone in technology and what the theatre industry was like then, it's so different. And I mean, I didn't go I actually deferred from university and went straight into a job. That's how I started as a technician.
Aberystwyth?
Yeah, in Aberystwyth. And thought, okay, I'll do this for a year because this is fantastic. This is such a great environment, and I loved the producing, and I loved the receiving part of what they did. And there was this funny little thing called lighting design, which I was really interested in, but I had no kind of idea about how people got it. And the kind of designers we were working with it was a lot of musical theatre. Or very experimental European physical work, physical pieces, or So the designers that came in tended to be sort of in their 50s, either very very well dressed for the musical theatre side, or completely all over the place for the very mysterious people. And I didn't ever think well maybe this is a career. It seemed so mysterious to me, and I was lucky. I was so lucky to be in that theatre. I ended up, as I say, I thought I'd do a year because I deferred and ended up doing 6 years. And in that time, ended up becoming the chief electrician effectively by the end of my time there, and designing, albeit in-house. The odd play, summer musical, but as I say, I mean, because when you came out of college, you don't have to mention the year, but did you know at that point, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make a career out of?
Well, it was a few years before you, but about 1990. And it was. What was I doing? I went to college to go into Welsh. Well, to go into film and television, because Welsh College at that time, it was the television side to it. But then quickly thought, I quite like theatre lighting, so I did end up in my third year doing 3 main stages, I think.
Mm.
And then, but knowing that you can't just, the ethos in those days was you have to go out and then earn your stripes really, and go in and even though you've studied and lit in shows, you then go in as an electrician somewhere and work your way up. And so I thought, and although I wanted to do that, I wasn't really sure, and did some small touring work with I think Merseyside Young People's Theatre was my first job at a college. Then I quite quickly got into festival work at Cardiff Council. In my first 12 months of leaving college. That was really interesting, but only over the summer months.
Yeah.
Then I got and then I did bits and bobs with some fellow graduates, and we thought, because you couldn't get any paid work, so we sort of started a company together and started doing shows at Chapter, which was great. So you start being called the lighting designer. You're one of a group of, there was an actor. It was Mapamundi, and there was a couple of actors in the company, a stage manager, a composer, a designer, and a couple of directors, and great. And we just did it for fun and profit share, and so for 5 years, on and off, I did that. Went off to America in the middle of that, because one of the shows I did, somebody was in who had a friend who was studying for an MA in lighting design out in America, and he was asked to go and find somebody from the UK to come out and do the next year. So I know Ceri's done stuff at Chapter, and I got asked to do that. So doing free stuff is a great thing, because you never know where it leads. Certainly in the early days. And that's when I thought, actually, when I studied over there, I only did 1 year over a 2-year course, because lots of reasons, mostly money. But I completed the lighting element part of that course, and that was when I thought, this is a real job, and I could really do some things with it. And I was also working for them out there as the deputy chief LX as well. So I felt, I'm started coming up, and it was there. I was allowed to do big shows in the theatre out there and fail.
Okay, so important though, isn't it, to fail? I mean, I feel as though I'm still now. I'll kind of go, really should have done that differently, but never mind. On to the next one. Or elements of, anyway.
Yeah, and I think
not selling myself, am I? But
the important thing is that you do recognise that you can fail, and I think many the students who come out of college now don't realise that they're scared of failure, and they're petrified on the job of having to be absolutely perfect with all the perfect answers, and actually that really hinders the process a lot. So
yes.
The bravado and the kind of, I'd rather you be honest and go, no, that's not working, or I don't know how to do that. And
absolutely, it's certainly not being scared is the best way to learn, isn't it? Well, not being scared of asking, or not having all the answers, I suppose.
No.
I mean, when I did a master's at the Welsh Col, I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah.
No, I kind of did it for the opposite reasons, because I did it quite late on in my career. It was, 10 years ago. As a professional pathway. I don't know if they still do it, actually. So basically, kind of continuing to work professionally, get the design work graded, and then of course do all your research and written work alongside it. But at that point, I felt as though to make that transition, I hadn't finished university. I just decided to do the practical thing. So there was always this sort of slightly nagging, am I ever going to be taken seriously if I don't have a formal qualification? Plus, I was doing quite a lot of teaching, and even getting to the point where I was being asked to supervise MA students. And although I had all the knowledge, it felt as though I needed to stretch myself a little bit more academically as well. And I'm so glad I did it, actually.
Yeah. It's a great thing for. I mean, I think there's people who come through the industry and who've just gone from assistant electrician up through to being designers and some of the greatest designers ever. I think that's really valuable and great way of pursuing a career. There's also, and people who've gone to college and then gone straight and being big designers is also good. Also good, perhaps. But doing both, I think, is probably the ideal, where you do need a little bit, as I said earlier, you need a bit of failure time. And a bit of thinking time and a bit of stepping away from while we're doing it, because you do end up, to make a living, you do end up having to do a lot of shows and a lot of shows quickly.
Yes.
Ever so quickly these days. I don't know how many 16-hour plotting sessions you get these days before a show.
16 hours of plotting at home, usually.
Yeah, well, that's got a new subject matter, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's what I used to get at the show. That was the joy I used to have, 12 hours at least with Phil on a show. And that was great. And we felt well prepared for it. Obviously, technology now can take you along that road a little bit further.
It's in fact, I learned quite a lot from an Israeli guy that had trained in sculpture and then made a transition over to becoming a lighting designer.
Oh, well.
And learned a huge amount from him, because it was all about really toying with angles and getting away from our traditional kind of top side, front, back. And he was massively influential and pushed me to go and further my training, actually, to start really thinking about things differently. But funnily enough, he in between his sculpture training and theatre work, he'd done a little bit of concerts and music and like live events. And you could see that, you could see the sort of, it may not have been ideal sometimes for theatre, but it was certainly as a sort of architectural piece. A lot of his work you could just stand and watch and not have anybody on stage. My early days at Aberystwyth, they just had a lottery grant to upgrade the desk. And Tim was with Theatre Vision, and at the time the 520 had just come out. But he was very much a roller cue Pearl, guy, and he brought them in, and there was the head of Strand, and then Tim on the roller cue. And of course, we weren't going to get a roller cue because it was a theatre, but it was sort of a little sort of demo of the new Strand console up against, the most used rock and roll desk at the time. And Tim was doing some incredible stuff, and everyone was sort of very impressed. And one of the new features of the Strand desk, of course, was auto move while dark, which since movers were being integrated into theatre, it was such a nightmare to program, because you're always having to think ahead like a chess move. And suddenly they put that. It was a great feature, wasn't it? A little tick box. People wouldn't believe us now, would they? If we were talking about a feature like that. But Tim didn't have an answer for that. He kind of went, "Yeah, that's really good, actually. Yeah, no, yeah." So the roller cue doesn't do anything like that. Of course,
it was good.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get back out there and do something though.
Yeah.
And the mood has certainly improved, hasn't it, since that announcement of funding? It was pretty depressing.
Yeah, it's where technically they can get the distancing sorted out
Mm.
in time, really. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for doing this, Kerry.
great.
I've really enjoyed it.
It was a long. It's a couple of hours worth just for the 20 minutes, but it's been really enjoyable anyway, and
It
good,
has.
good to do. So
Yeah, it's good therapy. I feel like I should.
we should do it again.
Yeah. 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 Fantastic. Yeah.
All right, then.
All right, mate. All the best anyway. And
I'll be in touch soon.
yeah, speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Take care, Kev.
Bye.
Ta-ra.